Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here with all of you. My name is Alex Kimura. I'm a partner based in Singapore, and today I'm here to talk about InsurTech 2.0, really the next evolution of insurance technology and innovation. And before we start, I think the InsurTech landscape is rapidly evolving, as we know. And over the past few years, there's been a better understanding of InsurTech and what it can bring. It's less seen as a disruptor, but more and more as a source of great ideas to partner and collaborate. And this is what I wanted to talk about today when we talk about InsurTech 1.0 and as we move to 2.0. If I turn to the next page, the agenda is really as follows. So first, we'll talk about the developments and the driving forces behind InsurTech 1.0. Secondly, the evolving InsurTech landscape in Thailand and what does it mean for Thai insurers and InsurTechs. And then thirdly, InsurTech 2.0, and what can we expect in the next phase of InsurTechs, both for incumbents as well as InsurTechs. So on page 3, we've seen three major forces behind InsurTech 1.0. Obviously, the customer demand for integrated customer experience touchpoints has really led to a rise in InsurTech 1.0. Insurance services are also increasingly consumed in ecosystems owned by different players in other industries, and that's really risen the InsurTechs globally. The operating model is also under pressure. We've seen different levels of disruption and pressure coming into the market. And as a result, on the right-hand side, we have new market entrants globally, some on its own right, getting a valuation over $1 billion, over $5 billion, and so forth. So it's here to stay, and the forces at play are very real. Page 4 is a description of the pressures that are affecting the traditional operating models. There is significant cost pressure in the traditional operating models, whether it's losses, whether it's a reduction of scale advantage, or simply the cost ratios of the winners and the losers is becoming more apparent. We're also seeing heavy investments in IT and analytics as differentiators. There's been a 22% increase in the total share of IT spend, especially for P&C insurers. There's been $1 trillion globally on analytics, over 10 billion investments in InsurTechs since 2012. So this is really changing the landscape of how traditional insurers operate and the forces at play again. If you look at the investment landscape on page 5, this is the Asia Pacific investments since 2017. We've seen large number of deals starting from 2017 to 2020. Deal size has grown significantly as well. And some examples of investments in the region is, Policy Bazaar, which I will talk about later, and also, the Sing Life acquisition of Aviva Singapore. So there's been a lot of changes. There's been a different investments going into play, but it's very exciting space. Page 6 is how InsurTech investments are being deployed. So roughly 50% of InsurTechs have been focusing on driving innovation in marketing distribution. So that's really the bulk of where the investments are going, of which 27% is in P&C and 20% in life and health. As you can see here in the mapping here, a lot of it's in the marketing and distribution, but also, as you can see, there's some investments going into other parts of the value chain. And then as you look across some of the new innovations in InsurTech 1.0, we're seeing across the value chain different ways that InsurTechs are emerging. So here's some examples that I'll take you through. So multi-channel distribution. As I mentioned, a lot of the investments are going into marketing distribution. So we will talk about a case example of Chubb and Grab. Secondly, the aggregated platform in India, Policy Bazaar, where they have 90% of the digital market share in that country. Third is proposition innovation to drive penetration. We've seen an example of that through CXA, where they're really cutting out the corporate insurance middleman to really break into that market. And then the other value chain plays that we're seeing is such as Passport Police, where they're deploying next-gen underwriting capabilities and operations, and Tractable in the US, where they're deploying really innovation and 5G technology around automated claims processing. So just some examples of innovation that's happening in InsurTech 1.0. On page 8, I'd like to talk about Passport Police because they really provide a very nice integrated customer experience and touch points to provide really a simplified customer journey. So as you can see here, anywhere from booking and flight tickets, damage against mobile phones, travel from home to work. So really the end-to-end experience, the daily active use is really at play here. And that has resulted in tremendous uptake in policies sold, 665 million policies sold in 2019, 70 million policies per month, and so on and so forth. So it's been a great innovation that's come to market. Another great innovation is next page, which is Policy Bazaar. Policy Bazaar is a major platform in India that everybody knows, but what they've been able to provide is really innovation in that marketplace. One of the first platforms to provide pay-per-use motor insurance, self-inspection, video features, and so forth. So really bringing a great customer experience to the tune of 93% market share for policies sold and 65% share of all digital insurance sold in 2020. Right. So this is a tremendous, in a very short period of time, being able to have significant uptake in customer acquisition. The next page, on page 10, is Chubb partnering with Grab. So this is a really good example of ecosystem and collaboration between an incumbent and an ecosystem player, where Chubb has produced innovative products embedded into the Grab journey, right? So this is really embedding themselves into the Grab journey, and that has been really successful for them in terms of customer acquisition and conversions and monetization. 100 million policies have been sold across Southeast Asia since 2018. And, this is really an exponential growth that they're seeing in the near term. Now, switching gears a little bit on page 11 is sort of a different take on how InsurTechs are looking at insurance. And this is an example of CXA Group out of Singapore, which is really disrupting the insurance middleman through an end-to-end approach. So they're really looking at digitizing the entire benefits and wellness value chain, really, eliminating sort of the intermediary and the middleman, as I described. And that has resulted in a really significant uptake among corporates, but also bank assurance across Southeast Asia. And then the next two examples is really around sort of specific areas of the value chain in InsurTech 1.0. So Tractable is one of the leading InsurTechs in the UK, but they also have a presence in the US, founded in 2014. And one of the things that they do very well is really focusing on the claims experience and drilling down into that, right? So, a lot of the statistics here is very, very impressive. Equally impressive is One Connect. So their focus is really providing an integrated tech solution for insurers. And today, their coverage is very good, where they have 99% of commercial banks and 53% of Chinese insurers that they're serving, right? So that's a really great InsurTech play, focusing on parts of the value chain around AI, blockchain, cloud, and biometrics, right? So that's something that they're focusing on. And last but not least, page 14 is really around Cover Genius. Cover Genius is an Australian InsurTech which has expanded globally, and this is a full stack insurance company. And what I like about Cover Genius is they have a full stack B2B embedded insurance distribution platform, and this is quite innovative and is quite unique. And they deploy an API support system for rapid claims in over 90 currencies in over 40 languages, right? So that's a really rapid innovation that we're seeing in Cover Genius. If I move to the next section on page 16 to talk a little bit about Thailand and the fertile environment that Thailand is producing for InsurTechs. But to start with the basics on page 16, Thailand insurance is leading among emerging peers. So at 5% penetration, which is the second line here, far ahead of some of the other ASEAN markets, but still, far lagging behind the advanced markets and some of the more mature markets that we see in Asia. So they got a lot of room to grow in terms of penetration. Page 17, there's clearly strong tailwinds for digital insurance in Thailand. Smartphones now are in 94% in penetration. In a very short period of time. There's a high willingness to adopt digital purchasing, not just in insurance, but also in banking. And COVID has really been a catalyst in Thailand, where they've seen 8.4 times increase in internet banking penetration over the past year. So we're seeing huge uptake in Thailand for digital FS, and insurance penetration is a large part of that. Page 18 is more data on sort of conduciveness for Thai consumers to purchase insurance online and to use digital advisory services, which is going to be a core part of the next generation of insurance. Thailand is one of the top countries globally in digital rankings. 55 million mobile users, 74% internet banking service access, number one in the world in that respect. And over 40% of Thai consumers show a willingness to purchase insurance online. Right? So that's very, very high compared to a lot of the Asian peers. And also from a digital advisory service perspective, the eagerness to use digital advisors willing to do so in the near term is also very high, right? So these are some of the things that are very conducive for insurtechs and people who really want to go big on digital. Page 19 is really around, significant growth in fintech penetration. And if this is a real proxy for insurtech, then we will see a huge acceleration in insurtech as well. So banking uses something that we talked about earlier, but the penetration level of fintech and e-wallet has grown exponentially, right? So you can see on the right-hand side in 2017 and in blue 2021, a very strong uptick in terms of the penetration for this next technology in financial services. And if I turn to the next page on page 20, it's really sort of the thesis around what is Thai insurance and what are the opportunities for insurtechs. So one of the things that we're seeing across the board in Thailand is personalization, the real notion of customer of one. And we're seeing more and more of that in Thai insurance, not just at the incumbent level, but also we're seeing insurtechs moving into the market, offering those type of services. Secondly, distribution, moving more towards digital and hybrid sales. I think this is not just an Thai phenomenon, but also an Asian phenomenon. But we're seeing more of these capabilities come to bear in Thailand, and sales online has been growing significantly in that area. And I understand that OIC is looking at rules and enablers for promoting more digital growth in the insurance space. The third is customer journeys and converging into ecosystem partnerships and touch points. And we're seeing, as I mentioned before, embedded insurance is a very popular topic throughout Asia, and we're seeing that Thailand is not far off from that, and we're seeing a lot of players looking at embedding insurance across major ecosystem plays and really optimizing the end-to-end customer experience for insurers. Right, so this is something that we're seeing. And last but not least, inorganic opportunities and digital capabilities being transformed. We're seeing a lot of investments going into looking at people moving into more full stack type of plays, looking at value chain plays to really build up expertise and get more scale across the value chain. The last section is really around InsurTech 2.0 and what to expect. So this is really around, we talked about InsurTech 1.0, and InsurTech 2.0 is going to be sort of the next phase of where people will double down, and secondly, where people will expand in terms of offering and innovation. So the next section is really around InsurTech 2.0 and what to expect for the insurance industry, but also for insurtechs. So just as a backdrop, we understand that there's 6 global forces that are going to shape the Asia insurance industry, and namely around cost efficiency, tech, and partnerships are going to be very, very important for insurtechs. The next page, I think, one of the things around cost is the need for cost reduction, efficiency gains is going to accelerate, and that's going to drive the emergence of 4 archetypes in insurtech transformations. Here, we have, one is flipping to a platform play. Second is, transformation by replacing existing systems back to the front. Third is progressive modernization of what they have today from front to back. And then 4, we're seeing some incumbents thinking about building a greenfield operation alongside what they have today, right? So we're seeing different plays in terms of cost and efficiencies to build out their business and reach customers. Equally, there's 5 tech trends that we've seen very pronounced for the future of insurance, and this is highlighted in the McKinsey article as well. And the 5 are really around applied AI, distributed infrastructure, future of connectivity, and also mobility, the next level automation, and trusted architecture, right? So this is really what we're seeing as the next level of trends across personal P&C, commercial, as well as life, health, and annuity. So this is something to look out for as we move forward to InsurTech 2.0. More specifically, on the next page, on page 25, I've listed out sort of the four major things that I thought would be interesting. So the future of connectivity is really around, getting more data, more speed, so that insurance companies can provide more use cases around predictive services, augmented intelligence services, telematics, and health tech, right? So I think that's sort of the advent of what's going to happen for connectivity and mobility. Applied AI is also an interesting space because we're seeing more and more insurance companies striving to have a 360 customer view to enable more tailored experience, improving their machine learnings predictions much more than what they have done in InsurTech 1.0. And then in next gen computing, this is really to provide a more advanced capability for simulations, also machine learning and data set management. So this is something that we'll see more of. And future mobility here, I think, especially on the P&C side, there's huge implications in terms of how people look at opportunities, insure new risks, and increase, customer touch points so that they can embed that into the customer experience models. So this page is really around the insurers, really driving partnerships to build out different kinds of ecosystems. And you can see the players in Asia, Europe, and Americas. I mean, these are some examples of how they are rolling out their ecosystems and their participation or the orchestration in these ecosystems, right? So you can see, whether it's health, wealth, mobility, housing, education, B2B services, they're all looking at different plays as they move into InsurTech 2.0. The next page, page 27, just talks about the investments that are going into InsurTechs. And we've seen a gradual uptick in investments since 2012, but particularly in 2020 and more so in 2021, we've seen a huge upswing in terms of numbers, right? So right now, approximately, for the first half of 2021, 7.4 billion has been invested in InsurTech, surpassing the 7 billion on a full year basis in 2020. And just Q2 alone, there's been 4.5 billion going into InsurTech. So, we're seeing this to be a significant trend, both in terms of, people investing in InsurTechs. They're seeing value pools being shifted. And we're seeing, these kind of investments is something to look out for, not just for investors, but also for incumbents who are looking to add on capabilities in their own platform. So in summary, on page 28, what are the implications for incumbent insurers, and what are the implications for InsurTechs moving into 2.0? So this page talks about InsurTech 2.0, specifically implications for incumbents and InsurTechs alike. And if I can start with incumbents, it's really being able to gain core tech capabilities that they couldn't do themselves, or would take a long time to do themselves. So this is something that they need to watch out for. And also taking a value-centric approach to shaping digital transformation. They'll also need to consider new operating models to win new strategies. We talked about ecosystems. We talked about connectivity and mobility. Do they have that in mind as they roll out new winning strategies? And last but not least, for the implications, exploring synergies with proven InsurTechs, whether it's partnerships and acquisitions, because in more often than not, InsurTechs are much closer to the customer and have very good, deep customer insight, and a lot of the incumbent insurers would benefit, from that experience. On the flip side, for InsurTechs, the implications, would be, exploring opportunities to tap into more parts of the value chain. So a lot of the InsurTechs are, I would say, focusing on different parts of the chain, and not many are full stack today. But as they expand and gain more expertise, can they go wider on the value chain? So that's one. Secondly, considering new generations of customer. So one of the things that insurtechs have done well over the past 5 years is tap into new segments, new markets, especially the younger segments where things are more social and things are more mobile. So this is something to look out for in 2.0. The third is really game-changing technology with implications for insurance. And the really future of mobility connectivity is something that a lot of the incumbent insurers haven't really capitalized. And this is where insurtechs can be ahead of the game and probably partner with incumbents to make inroads and also develop new operating models. And last but not least, it's really about leveraging partnership with incumbents. Whether it's access to customers, which incumbents do have, capital, brand, and thought leadership. So it's really creating this win-win situation where insurtechs bring these capabilities and insight that some of the incumbents don't have, and vice versa. So this is something to really look out for in 2.0 and efficiently scale while managing costs and improving the path of profitability. So this is something that is on our minds in terms of themes for 2.0. So that was a quick summary of InsurTech 2.0, the implications to Thailand and what to expect for all of us, both in terms of incumbents and InsurTechs alike. Now I can just open up for questions that the audience may have.